let's talk about a very controversial topic, concealed carry. Some people hate it, some people love it. Nobody else but you knows you're doing it. At least that's the way it should be. It's a secret, and you need to keep it until you absolutely have no other choice. Concealed carry comes from a place of wisdom, not fear. If you're carrying out of fear, maybe you should stop, because that fear will make you do things that you wouldn't normally naturally do. You need to carry from a place of wisdom. That wisdom is knowing that there's evil out there, knowing that there's threats out there. You might have something that somebody else wants and they're going to use threat of violence to take it from you. Now, simply exercising your Second Amendment right, and a lot of people reference Second Amendment right with concealed carry, that alone, having a culture of that in America, has deterred a lot of violence. Unfortunately, I don't really have the dialogue in this format to play question and answer. So I'm going to try to answer a bunch of questions that I had back when I first started carrying concealed like 20 some years ago. Yeah, I'm old. Oh well. Concealed carry comes from a place of wisdom for me, and I think it should come from a place of wisdom for everybody. There's threats out there. There's threats everywhere. You don't know when you're going to need it, and just like a condom in your wallet, you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. My advice is be wise enough to carry concealed and be wise enough to carry it safely. Understanding that that gun should also change how you behave in public, because you should now be acting to avoid any altercation or conflict you possibly can, because you know the cost of that. You are carrying a gun, and that cost could be their death. If you're not willing to pay that price, if you're not willing to pull that trigger when the time comes, probably shouldn't be carrying concealed to begin with. If your decision to carry concealed comes from a place of fear, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. Fear makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. If you have it in your mind that you want to kill somebody someday and you're looking to conceal carry, stop watching this video, go somewhere else, don't conceal carry, don't buy a gun, you're the problem. Straight up, I'm talking to you if that is you. You should be carrying from a place of love and caring for other people. You want to protect those people. You want to protect those around you and what's most valuable and important to you. Concealed carry is more of a responsibility than most people realize. You have a firearm on you now that you are 100% responsible for. You can't just take it off and put it somewhere. You're stuck with it. You might be able to hide it in your car, which most people hide it under the seat or center console, which that's where criminals are going to look for right away. And that gun in the car is not going to do you any good if you're inside a grocery store or something like that, and it's the event that you might need it. To have it with you and to be capable with it is a huge responsibility. You're responsible for every bullet you fire. Where that bullet comes out of your muzzle and where it lands downrange, you're responsible for that. You're responsible for what's behind your target, and you're responsible for what your target is. Mistakes happen, and you need to train and be mentally focused and prepared at any given time. If you choose to ignore state laws, you choose to ignore signs that say no carry or no firearm here, you own that too. There are instances where there were good people that did that, and they were able to use their firearm in self-defense and essentially saved the day, but they still had the legal issues of dealing with the fact that they had a firearm where the law says you shouldn't have it. They also had to deal with the fact that they had a firearm in a place that said no firearms allowed. So there's a risk if you choose to carry in those places that say not to, but that's also part of where mass shooters go looking. So I'm not telling you to carry in those places, but I'm just saying, that's going to be a pretty good target. That's kind of what they look for, I think. Another thing about concealed carry that is a controversial hot take. The gun community likes to eat its own and likes to pick on each other and say that their answer is the best. I'm here to tell you the absolute truth about this. The gun really does not matter. How well you are trained with the gun, how effective you are with the gun, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if it's an older M&P shield that's pretty thin, very concealable. Now really you could pick these up for a few $100s, even a little bit used. Doesn't matter if it's a $500 to $600 Glock 43X. If I were to buy this today, I'd buy the MOS version. It doesn't matter if it's a $1,000 HK. It really doesn't matter. You can have a Taurus or a High Point. I wouldn't recommend a High Point. That's kind of maybe where we should draw the line. But the gun doesn't matter. It just doesn't. How well you're able to use it. Rather you have a single action revolver. It doesn't matter. If you know how to use that single action revolver really well, you're going to win that gunfight. That's not a popular opinion inside the gun community, because there are those guys out there that are like, Glock no matter what. SIG no matter what. Don't listen to those guys, because they're not you. If you're not willing to train with the firearm that you buy, maybe you shouldn't buy it. Maybe you should look for a gun that you're willing to carry every day that fits that nice, perfect envelope of carry every day, and I'm going to be able to actually go shoot this and enjoy it enough to continue to shoot it as often as you reasonably can, and as often as you can reasonably afford. 20 years ago when I started concealed carrying, there was very few options on the table. Pretty much the Glock 19 was probably the most popular and most readily available. My very first concealed carry firearm was the Kel-Tec PF9, I believe it was. Very slim gun, kind of sharp corners. I don't have it anymore because I wasn't a big fan of it. And then shortly after selling that, I wound up purchasing the M&P Shield, which was kind of my first everyday driver for concealed carry. I kind of came down to a conclusion that it wasn't enough. I developed the philosophy that I wanted at least 10 rounds in the primary magazine and a backup magazine that had more than that. I came down to the conclusion that caliber choice also mattered. I felt like 9mm was the smallest I would go. And the slim profile of a lot of the concealed carry firearms that I own, 9mm provides that. So I get 9mm, which is not the most powerful round. There are more powerful rounds out there, but a miss with a 50 cal is still a miss. A hit with a 9mm is an absolute hit. So capacity and caliber choice both lend to minimum of 10 round magazine, which is a philosophy that I decided to adopt. The next was something that I wanted to carry inside the waistband, which really does open up a lot of options. There are tons of guns out there that fit that. Guns that I haven't even seen yet. The concealed carry market has gotten so big because concealed carry has gotten so popular, you almost have too many choices out there. Case in point, I fall victim of it as well because I bought this HK because I thought it would be the cat's meow, the latest, greatest, best concealed carry firearm out there. And honestly, I think it's great. There are some issues, but every single gun has some issues. I don't have a single gun in my possession that is completely stock in the configuration that I originally bought it in. This, the M&P Shield, so I'm not pointing at myself, a night sight dot up on front of it because that was something I wanted. It didn't come factory with that. It came factory with the three white dot. I prefer the blacked out rear sight and I prefer the green dot on the front. Why do I prefer that? I don't know. I just do. I think it looks cool. Front sight matters, and I caught myself training in low light scenarios that I would kind of follow the rear sight, and then when you're following the rear sight, you're only focusing on the rear sight, your gun can be pointed down. This is dramatic, of course. This is a little too extreme. But if you don't have any dots on your rear sight and you focus on your front sight, you're more apt to actually hit your target, especially at the ranges and distances that most concealed carry and self-defense scenarios exist in. They exist inside of 10 yards. That's 30 feet. That's not very long, and most of those exist inside 3 yards. Vast majority of them, I do believe. So really, having a gun with an optic on it that gives you a dot that allows you to shoot further is almost pointless. It's not completely pointless, it's almost pointless, and I don't think it's really worth spending the money on if it's the only gun you're going to own. I think something like the newer M&P Shield, the Shield Plus, has a little bit higher capacity. Just go with the iron sights, and I'd set up the sights just as I described. I think that's a very viable, affordable option. You don't need the red or green dot to be a concealed carry guy, and there's people out there that will say if you're not carrying with a dot, you're not, who are you? What are you doing? Like, you're nobody now. Well, none of that's true. Absolutely none of that is true. Because World War II was won with the 1911, and it did not have a red dot. I'm pretty sure the 1911 did not win World War II, but, I mean, it did take down a plane. It's the only handgun to have done that. So those people that claim that you need a red dot to defend yourself, that simply isn't true. So there's that. Well, let's talk about training. You don't need to spend a lot of money on ammo to do it. You can do a lot of training inside your own home. It is a little bit risky. There is some inherent risk, but if you're smart and careful, you'll have no issues. What I'm talking about is not even dry firing. I'm talking about drawing your pistol out of your holster and lining up on your target and practicing that over and over, and practicing and developing the muscle memory, which muscle memory isn't real, developing the neurological connections inside of your brain to tell your muscles and your eye to focus on the front sight. That's what people mean when they say muscle memory, because muscles don't have a brain, so they can't have memory. But drawing a firearm out and presenting on your target over and over and making sure that your firearm is empty and unloaded while you're doing this is absolutely imperative. I check multiple times while I'm doing this. That's free. All you need is a firearm and a holster to do it, and you need a place away from your ammunition to do it, and that's usually all paid for because you're a grown adult and you already have responsibilities, so you should do that because it's free. Once every 2 weeks, maybe the day after payday, go buy a box of ammunition, practice squeezing the trigger, go get some time out on the range, pulling your firearm out of your holster and actually getting used to feel the recoil and see if you can reduce your split shots from your first shot to your second and get a tight, decent group and get those 2 shots relatively close in timing. And that's a lot of things that are pretty important. And you don't have to go out and spend money on ammo to shoot your gun. But if you're just going out there and you're like, pow, pow, a few shots downrange, I shot all in the bullseye, I'm good to go. That's just, okay, cool, you used your sights. You might as well have not gone shooting that day. You need to practice drawing, presentation, and firing, and you need to practice that over and over until it is something that you can do when you're absolutely tired in the middle of the night and somebody broke into your house. It's something you can do when you're distracted by life around you, and you need to change your mindset from I'm having a good time with my family at the city park to now there's this crazed man with a machete coming at me and now I need to address this. That's the level of training you need to be at. And that's different for everybody. The amount of time that you spend doing it is different for everybody. For somebody that has never shot a gun before, that's going to take you a lot longer to get there than somebody who grew up with firearms their entire life. And it's unfair to compare to somebody that does competition shoots because they shoot every weekend and they shoot lots of rounds every single weekend and they obsess with it and their life is revolved around firearms. Somebody who just picked up a M&P Shield or a Taurus or a Ruger or a Hellcat is going to be top tier level operator with that firearm. That's just not practical. And that's unfair to have that expectation on yourself. So train as much as you can reasonably afford with live ammunition. And again, do it safely inside your home, making sure your gun is clear, empty, and everything is safe. You don't have to spend a lot of money on doing it, but you do have to do it. You do have to train with your firearm. You do have to be ready for it. And I would even say once you've done it enough, step up your game where you might go shooting, maybe not at the gun range, but you go out into the desert somewhere where you're not going to have any witnesses to call the cops on you, and you're sitting in your car, no ammunition, practice drawing from inside your seat of your car. See what works, what doesn't work. That's the only way you're going to know. Make sure your gun's empty, right? Check your chamber, dump your magazine. You don't even have to have your magazine in your gun, but pull out, make sure stuff like the seatbelt's going to interfere with your draw. You don't want to make those mistakes in the heat of the moment when somebody's walking up to your car and they have a shotgun. You want to make those mistakes out in the field training and learn what you got to do to avoid getting the seatbelt tangled up. Stuff like that. There's 2 ways you get experience with anything in life. That's through actually going through it and training. You don't actually want to go through this and learn how to do it going through this, because if you go through it enough times, you'll really start to question existence and society and all sorts of stuff like that. But if you train for it and you practice it enough, you'll learn what does work and what doesn't work, and hopefully you'll fall to the level of your training because you don't really rise to the occasion. So in conclusion, you should carry from a place of wisdom. It's a responsibility, and it's something you should take very seriously and train for. If you have any questions, let me know. You know how to do the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, comment, say stuff down there. If you disagree with anything I've said, you can either keep it to yourself or let me know. Either way, I'm fine with it. I'll probably ignore it. I don't know. I might answer back. Who knows? But I think good, healthy conversation and dialogue on a topic like this is very important, because this is a constantly changing field to exist in, because the government's always trying to change the laws and change the rules on you. Well, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Train often. Be safe.